With the US providing military assistance to Ukraine and now potentially Israel, how will this affect Taiwan in the future?
So, reports now are that President Biden will seek a $100 billion supplemental funding bill through Congress, bundling both Israel as well as Ukraine military assistance, funding for the U.S. southern border, and potentially also Taiwan. So, if the Biden's administration's approach is to put that all together for an up or down vote, then I think that's actually a creative way to get military assistance to Ukraine as well as Taiwan. So this actually could end up benefiting Taiwan because, frankly, had it not been for this conflict in Israel, that supplemental funding for Taiwan wasn't really on the table this year. So Taiwan could end up being a net beneficiary in that narrow sense because of the fighting in Israel.
And when we look at the type of systems that the United States is sending to Ukraine and potentially to Israel, will this affect Taiwan's ability to get the weapons it needs to defend itself?
So my sense is that the requirements for Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan are all quite different. So Israel, for instance, is fighting a war, largely land war against a neighbor. You're looking at much shorter range systems, not necessarily the most advanced or cutting edge ones. For instance, those munitions the United States would need for Taiwan contingencies are really those longer range, munitions, which are not the ones that we're potentially sending to Israel or even Ukraine. So yes, there is some overlap. It's not 100% different, but I don't think that there's the overlap to the extent where you could argue that we're taking away from Taiwan to assist Ukraine or Israel.
If a potential conflict or blockade was to happen around Taiwan, is the United States in the correct posturing to come to Taiwan's aid, given both the war in Ukraine and this conflict in Israel?
Well, on the one hand, you have two carrier strike groups going to the Mediterranean right now to deter Iran as well as Hezbollah from entering the fray in terms of the Israel Hamas conflict. So, in that sense, that takes away capabilities that you would want to have in the Indo Pacific if there actually was a Chinese blockade or invasion of Taiwan. Yes, it's providing significant military assistance to Ukraine and Israel, but it's not intervening directly in either case. So you don't have US soldiers or boots on the ground. The United States is not in a combat role. And to be blunt, if there is a war in the Taiwan Strait, that is the type of role that the United States, in my view, would have to decide whether or not to play.